here's something you should know. The 1, 4, and 5 chords in every key. Okay, so this is all going back to the major scale again. Okay, remember in the C major scale, we identified the scale degrees. 1, C is 1, the root. 1, 2, 3, 4. F is the 4th. G is the 5th. So the chords, the diatonic triads based on the C major scale, give you a C major chord, and an F major chord, and a G major chord. That's the 1 chord. 2 is minor, D minor. The 3 chord is E minor. The 4 chord is F major. 5 chord is G major. The 6 chord is A minor. And the 7 chord is B diminished. And the 1 chord, again, an octave higher, C major. Okay, it's very, very good to know. You should know the 1, 4, and 5 chords in every key. So using the 2 standard major bar chord forms I just showed you, I'm going to show you the 1, 4, and 5 chords in a bunch of keys. Okay, in C, C is 1, F is 4, G is 5, and C is 1. So typically you have a progression that goes 1, 4, 5, 1. You could also play it like this. Play the C major chord up here. That's your 1, F is your 4, G is your 5, C is a 1. You notice that the 5 chord has a very strong pull, tendency to want to resolve back to 1. So you go 1, 4, 5, 1. That 5, 1 resolution is very strong, and it's used in music to create chord progressions that have a sense of forward motion. Okay, so using the guitar keys, starting with A, I'm just going to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. In the key of A is a 1 chord, D is a 4 chord, E is a 5 chord, A is a 1. You could also go 1, 4, 5, 1. You know, A is 1, D is 4, E is 5, A is 1. Okay, key of B, B is a 1 chord, E is 4, F sharp is 5, B is 1. You could also do like this, 1, 4, 5, 1. Notice again that on this 6-string root bar chord, I'm strumming all 6 strings. But on these 5th string root chords, in which we have the secondary bar, I'm only strumming the middle 4. And then going back to all 6. Okay? C major we already did. C, F, G, 1, 4, 5, 1. Okay? You could also play that as open chord. C, F, G, C. These are the cowboy versions. In rock, you'd probably go. Give you more of a punk vibe. Okay, key of D. D is a 1 chord, G is a 4, A is a 5, D is a 1. You can play like this. 1, 4, 5, 1. That's D, G, A, D. Or with open chords, D, G, A, D. 1, 4, 5, 1. And here it is, substituting the rock G voicing. 1, 4, 5, 1. Actually, you could substitute the rock A as well. So you go. It's more of an AC/DC sound. Yeah, you pile on some distortion, and it has a very powerful growl to it. Okay, key of E. E is 1, A is 4, B is 5, 1. Notice how that 1, 4, 5 progression has a nice satisfying feeling, you know, this is stable. Oh, it's going somewhere, and now it really it begs to go back to the 1, right? So that 5, 1 resolution is very strong. So countless songs have been built around that progression. Okay, key of F. F is 1, B flat is 4, C is 5, F. You can play the C chord open if you want, you know, combining bar chords and open. 1, 4, 5, 1, if you just feel like staying in the first position. Okay, key of G, G is 1, C is 4, D is 5, G is 1, again open chords, G, 1, C, 4, D, 5, G, 1. Another very important concept in harmony is the relative minor-major relationship. For every major key, for every one chord in every key, you have what's called the relative minor, which is 3 frets lower, and it's the 6th chord in the key based upon the scale. Going back to our old friend, the C major scale again. C is a 1 chord, it's major. D is a 2 chord, it's minor. It's built on the 2nd degree of the scale. E is minor, based on the 3rd degree. F is major, based on the 4. G is major, based on the 5. And A minor is the 6th chord, because it's based on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th scale degree. Okay, so for every major chord, you have a relative minor. Okay, C major, A minor. Those chords are very closely related because they share 2 common tones. They're actually called common tones. So C major, and we learned from our inversions, this is A minor. Notice that the C and the E notes are common to both chords. So in C major, you have C is the root, E is the 3rd, G is the 5th. In A minor, C is the minor 3rd, E is the 5th, and A is the root. So you have the root on top, the 5th, and then a minor 3rd. So it's good to learn those in all your inversions, right? We did C and A minor, C, and then A minor would be here. C, second inversion, goes to A minor root position with the root in the bottom. C root position goes to A minor first inversion. It's good to review your relative major and minor chords in terms of bar chords. So in A major, the relative minor is F sharp minor. So you just take the major chord, you go down 3 frets and play the minor chord, which is produced by removing the index finger. It's the same shape as the major chord. So here's A major. You take away the index, the middle finger, so that you're going on the G string. So the major third becomes minor. Okay, but you're going to do it 3 frets lower. So A major, F sharp with the middle finger removed, F sharp minor. Okay, B major, G sharp minor is the relative minor. C major, we already covered this, the relative minor is A minor. You could go C major, A minor like that, or you can go C major, A minor. You notice it has a little bit of melody on top, da, 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 depending on which voicing you're using. Okay, D major, the relative minor of that is B minor. You can go D major like this, open to B minor. Okay, next E major, you go down 3 frets to a minor chord. This, I don't think I introduced this yet. This is a 5th string root minor chord. It looks like A minor. We learned A minor already, right? Move that up chromatically, 1 fret at a time. Move these 3 notes up and add a bar. It gives you B flat minor, or A minor, A sharp minor. You can call it that. B minor, C sharp minor, D minor, D sharp, E minor, etc. F minor, F sharp. So E major, C sharp minor. Okay, then you have F major, the relative minor is D minor. You play it like this too. F major, D minor, using these chords you learned already. A lot of songs have been written around those 2 chords, especially C major to A minor. F minor to D minor, or so that relative major-minor relationship is very important. Now let's combine the 1, 4, and 5 chords in a variety of useful guitar keys with the relative minor chord. So let's look at the key of C, because it's the simplest, has no sharps or flats. C is a 1, A minor is the 6th chord, the relative minor. F is the 4, G is the 5, and you have what's called a 1, 6, 4, 5 progression. The 1 chord being major, the 6th chord being minor, right, the relative minor, the 4 being major, and the 5 being major. You could alternatively play it like this. C major, A minor, F major, G major. Okay, let's look at it in a different key. Let's look at it in the key of D. Okay, D minor is a 1 chord, B minor is the 6th chord, G is the 4 chord, A is the 5 chord. You'll hear this a lot in the doo-wop songs in the 1950s. They'll play like. Dozens of songs have been written around that progression. Why? Because it's satisfying to the ear. It has movement. It has a sense of push and pull, or tension and release. Okay, let's look at the key of G. G is a 1, play it like that. E minor is the 6, C is a 4, D is a 5. And it sounds really nice if you arpeggiate the notes, you pick them as single notes. So there's a lot you can do with basic chord progressions such as 1, 6, 2, 5, simply by adding an arpeggiation pattern. You could do something like this. Suddenly it becomes much more interesting than just strumming the chords. C, D, or F sharp. Here's a familiar sounding example of a song from the 1950s that is built around that 1, 6, 4, 5 progression. I'll give you a clue. It was used in the movie Back to the Future, okay? 1, 6 minor, 4 major, 5 major. Earlier we talked about chord inversions, root position chord, say G major, and then the first inversion with the 3rd in the bottom, G, D, B, second inversion with the 5th in the bottom, root position again. You can keep going, you can go. These are very useful to know, especially the open voicings. We looked at some the drop 2 voicings, say in the key of G, or having that separation, that there's wide intervals between the notes, really brings out the feel, the quality of the bass note. It's interesting to note that a root position chord has a very solid feel. Whether it's a major chord or a minor chord, A major sounds very solid root position. As soon as you put it into first inversion with the 3rd in the bottom, it suddenly sounds a little up in the air. So I'm going from A, E, C sharp, root, 5th, 3rd, and then 3rd, root, 5th. suddenly it has like a, it wants to go somewhere. And then if you put the fifth on the bottom, the fifth, third root, you could alternatively finger it like this. It sounds very up in the air, like it needs to do something. It wants to, and then go to E, and then back to a root position, A. So the use of inversions is very popular. It was very popular in the classical period, beginning around the 16th century and up until like the 20th century, when they started doing a bunch of weird outside things, pushing the boundaries of harmony. In common practice harmony, which is like the music of Bach and Beethoven, Mozart, and Brahms, they would use inversions to add variety to a chord progression and create very melodic sounding bass lines. For example, if I'm going to go from C to G to A minor, if I put the third of the G chord, B, make that the bass note, and then go to A minor, suddenly you have a much less angular bass line that sounds more melodic. So instead of going C, G, A minor, I'm going C, G over B, A minor. So that chord would be identified as G over B. Again, we looked at it like this, right there. A G triad with the third and the bass. So going C, G over B to A minor. That's a very popular one. I mean, so many songs. That sounds very familiar, doesn't it? And you can just do another move is to do the same thing in the key of G. So G, instead of going 1, 5, 6, which is a relative minor, that's a very popular move, just to go 1 chord, 5 chord, and then the relative minor, the 6 chord. Put the third of the 5 chord in the bass. So the bass line goes G, D over F sharp, E minor. It sounds good coming back. So that, again, brings to mind another very familiar sounding song. And then from there, you can go to the 4 chord, C, this is in the key of G still, and then G over B, which is, this is the 1 chord in first inversion with the third in the bass, to the 2 chord, 5. So in this example I'm giving you, we have the 1 chord, 5 chord with the third in the bass, 6 chord, and then the 4 chord, and then the 1 chord with the third in the bass, first inversion, 2 minor to 5. So you get this nice bass line. You could alternatively, on that very last bit there, go. And then, playing the 5 chord D with the third in the bass, F sharp, gives you that very smooth half-step resolution.